parents were like, Sarah, I know I'm about to piss some people off. Listen, I want to say again, I never thought about, like, these books are really making me like reflect on my book lore, like my childhood. Like I know that's literally what the purpose of this video is. Do you know how much I try hard? Oh my god. I've never told, I don't think, YouTube this story. This is such a fun challenge. I'm having a great time. I hope you guys are too. And I just was not prepared for that. I was not prepared for that in middle school or high school. All those books I mentioned, there is like a piece of them in me still. I think it's kind of cool. Oh! Sorry, I just kicked you. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah. Welcome back to our little reading area. I definitely, can you see this? I still have like Easter decorations up. I'm fully aware that we're almost in fall. I am so excited because today we are doing a tag video. It's my book lore. If you're new here, this is gonna be a video where all you need to know about my book lore, where I started as a reader, where I want to go as a reader, and just all of my reading loves and how my lore as a reader started. And I saw a few of these going around like a couple months ago and I thought it was so cool and so interesting just to see how much I had in common with other like people, like booktubers on here. Childhood books that were all the same. I thought it was so cool. So that's what we're doing today. It's like maybe 10-ish questions. I have not pre-looked at the question, so it's gonna be completely off the cuff. Welcome to my book lore. I am a little bit scared because I have definitely changed so much as a reader, but I'm really interested to see the invisible thread that went throughout from when I was like in elementary school to now. I think that's kind of cool. Okay, first question. What character did you most identify with in elementary school? Okay, these questions are gonna be hard to answer right off the cuff. That's a deeper one. I'm gonna like talk through my thought process as I'm doing this. In elementary school, I think I had just started getting into fantasy, specifically Harry Potter. I was into the Harry Potter movies. Listen, I don't support J.K. Rowling. Not supporting her turf. I am one of the ones that chooses to believe that Harry Potter exists in its own magical world and J.K. Rowling's not associated with it. We can do that, right? That's the first kind of book series that I remember really getting involved in. In elementary school, I think I was reading like Junie B. Jones. Those like really young books. One book that does stick out to me is Inkheart, and I think I read Inkheart in middle school, so not exactly elementary school, but middle school. I still think about that. It's this book series, I think it's a trilogy, where it was like the first series that I remember like waiting for the next book to come out, and when it came out, I would like ask my parents to go to the bookstore immediately to get the new one. I would want to bring it home. I never bought books when I was little. I was a big library kid. I was always at that library. Everyone knew who I was. I just was always at the library and I never really bought books. Inkheart trilogy, that's the first book series that I remember myself like wanting to buy. And I mean, I was in elementary school, my parents bought it for me, but like wanting to ask my parents for these books. It's actually a movie now too, which I kind of want to rewatch it. I feel like the movie wasn't that good though. It's about this girl, she like can write stories that come to life or something, and like she basically can like dive into the stories that she writes, which is so cool. And I do remember that when I was little, I was a big, like I would always write little stories. Like I remember I would handwrite stories before I got introduced to the computer, and my parents would like help me bind them with like ribbon and hole punches. That's what I did in elementary school and I loved it. And I feel like that, because of that reason, I definitely related to the main character from Inkheart so much, because she's like this girl that can write stories and then enter her stories. I thought that was such a cool subject as a kid. So I'm gonna have to say her is who comes to mind immediately. Question 2, what was your elementary school comfort book? I think I kind of already answered this. I think I want to say Junie B. Jones. That was my comfort book series. I just thought that it was so fun, and I love the writing as an elementary school kid. And then also, of course, Inkheart. And for some reason, Geronimo Stilton, that stands out in my mind as a book series that I loved when I was little. And there was this other book series. Was it Animorphs? I definitely remember this book series, Animorphs, that I was so invested in. It was about like kids that could turn into animals and like save the world. And those I feel like were my 3 comfort characters. And now looking at like that invisible thread leading through, like that is why that I'm like fantasy is my comfort genre, because I started with fantasy, like Animorphs. Geronimo Stilton was like a detective or something, and then Judy B. Jones was just like this like nerdy little girl. So I feel like those are the characters that are my comfort characters that I probably related to the most. I would say moving into maybe like middle school or high school, it was Twilight. I remember reading Twilight and then watching when the movies came out. I watched when that movie came out, the first Twilight movie. I don't even know when that was. It was this year. When that came out, I remember specifically I got it on DVD immediately, of course, and for a month straight, a month mind you, and my attention span was not good as a kid. Twilight kept my attention span. I would come home and the first thing I would do was turn on Twilight. Every single day for at least a month. At least. So much that my parents were like, Sarah, like, you can't be doing, go in the other room and watch it please, because I can't hear this show again. And it was, I remember specifically that my friend wanted to go out and play, and I was like, no, I have to watch Twilight. And then she was like, haven't you watched it every day for the past several weeks? I was like, yeah, but like, you want to come in and watch Twilight with me? And she was like, no, I want to play outside. And I think I still had her come in and we watched Twilight and then we played outside. Question 3, where or what was your safe space as a kid? I'm gonna have to say the library. I know that's so cliche. Like, if it wasn't like my neighborhood, which I was that kid that would constantly be out with all the neighborhood kids, you know, the street lights brought us home. Our parents were like, hey, when the street lights come on, come home. And that was, and we were just running around the neighborhood. It was more like a development, like an enclosed type of development, so like our parents knew that we were safe. But it was also just a different time, and I am so sad for the children of this generation that don't get to experience that. Like, oh, when you come home from school, me and my friend would always start it. Me and my friend that like lived 2 doors down, we would get to like, oh, let's go knock on this person's door, let's go knock on this door. We would go door to door to all our friends in the neighborhood and knock on the door and say like, can so-and-so come and play? And then we would gradually gather like a bigger group. Oh my god, that was such a fun time. And then we would just, I don't even know what we would do. We would just do whatever we wanted in that neighborhood. I remember exploring in like the woods behind us a lot. And I remember like we played countless like races, games and stuff like that. And sometimes we would just hang out on like the basketball court and just hang out. That was such a fun time. And it was always like, we either, okay, let's stay here for dinner with this family, or our parents would say like, we'd have to call them or knock on our door, be like, hey, can I go over so-and-so's for dinner? And they would say yes or no. Yeah, it was such a fun time. But if it wasn't my neighborhood, my safe space wasn't my neighborhood, then it was the library. Like my local library, not even the one at school, but my local library, I feel like, because my mom's friend was one of the head librarians there. So it was such a, like, I remember seeing her, like my mom's friend at the library, and then she would come home and like we would like hang out with my mom, and it was just, it felt like such a family environment. I don't know how to explain it, but I would just sit there and I loved the smell. I loved walking in there. It was a small library. They had like a little kids section, like not kids, but like young adult section that they decorate all with like couches and rugs and stuff, and I would just hang out there. And I would constantly just like, hey, can I go to the library, to my mom, and I would just sit there and hang out while she was like doing something else. So I would say that library would be my safe space. Definitely. Loved it. Next question, how has your taste in books changed since childhood? I'm definitely into romance now. Like, I'm not trying to think like what constitutes childhood. Like, are we talking like elementary school to like middle school, elementary school to high school? I think I'm gonna count elementary school to high school, because at this point I graduated high school many years ago. I'm in my 20s, so high school is like far behind me. And I'm gonna consider that as my childhood, like under 18. I would say that definitely in elementary school I was into the Judy B. Jones, Geronimo Stilton. I think I got into Nancy Drew one time because my mom was really into that, and the Animorphs. And then in middle school I got more into like the young adult fantasy, like Twilight, and that's when I read all the Harry Potter books. I remember reading Divergent and The Hunger Games. Like those were like, that was like the YA dystopian age. So that is definitely, I was definitely into all the dystopian books in middle school and into high school. And then in high school it was still fantasy. I feel like honestly I didn't even pick up a romance book until like college. Like I was not interested in reading romance unless it was like The Summer I Turned Pretty. Like that, I remember wanting to read that book. but I don't think that was like might have been like the only series. And like To All the Boys I Loved Before, those are probably the only series of romance that I read, like romance books that I read before college. Like I just was not into romance at all. It was always fantasy for me. Fantasy was always my comfort genre. It's still my comfort genre. I could definitely see that in going through like how my reading taste has changed, just now that I like more romance books. Definitely fantasy is still my comfort genre, but I like romances now a lot. You couldn't pay me to read one in high school. I was like, why would I want to read a silly romance book when I could just be in like a different world entirely, a different universe with different rules and different animals. Like it was just a no-brainer to me that I would always want to go fantasy. So that definitely changed. I was also never into thrillers until probably like college. Alice Feeney was probably one of my first thriller books. Rock, Paper, Scissors. Even that's when I realized like, oh yeah, I'm into thrillers too. But even now, I have to be in the mood for thrillers, you know? Like I have a friend who only reads thrillers. Like she loves the thriller genre, and I just have to be in the mood to read it. I definitely broadened my genre taste to more than just fantasy, because that was what I was only into fantasy when I was younger. That's kind of cool. That's interesting. I never thought about, like, these books are really making me like reflect on my book lore, like my childhood. Like I know that's literally what the purpose of this video is, but like I never actually like thought about it that way. This is also a carrot pill. I know you can kind of see behind me. Like I said, I still have Easter out. I need to get rid of it. Sorry. Did you feel inspired to read by your school? And if yes, how did your upbringing encourage reading? I definitely felt inspired to read by school, and honestly my mom is the main person who encouraged me to read. Like she's been a reader, she's always been a reader. I always saw her reading. It was always like, oh, mom's got a book, or mom's bringing a book and she's reading in like the car trips, and I was on my Nintendo DS or on my iPod or something, and my mom was always reading. And then I would always see my mom reading. We had this like couch in our living room, and we called it the big comfy couch because it was like separate from our couch that like was in the TV room. Like, and this was our living room couch that was like a really big, really nice, cushy couch. And my dad still has it in his house. That was always the reading couch. Like, it was in just such a perfect location where like you had all the light streaming in. And I remember my mom put like a big reading light up here to like, and I was just the comfy couch spot. I always saw my mom in the comfy couch spot. She definitely got me into reading. My mom, I could give her all that credit because she always encouraged me to go to the library. She was always reading, so she made me want to read. She helped me find books to read. My school also, definitely, like, I loved English. English was my favorite subject as a kid. I remember a lot of my friends were just like not into English. Like, oh, we gotta write, we gotta read, and I was like, yeah, how boring. But in my mind I was like, I am so excited to read. So I would pretend to not like it, but I loved it. I loved when we had our assigned readings. I would always make sure I got my summer reading done like first thing. I loved it. I loved talking about the themes of the book. I really did. My English teachers also helped encourage me to read just because they helped me like really think about what I'm reading. And of course we read like books like To Kill a Mockingbird and 1984, you know, these banned books now apparently, but like we read them in school. I just loved analyzing them and talking about them and all of my like book reports. Do you know how much I try hard? Oh my god. I never told, I don't think, YouTube this story. I was such a try-hard in high school because I read so much. I read all the popular books already, and in like freshman year, one of our big like English assignment was to do a book report on 3 books by the same author. And you know, people picked Hunger Games, people picked Twilight, it's like, this was like my English teacher's way of being like, read whatever you want. Like, this is your time, or don't have to read any assigned reading, like read whatever you want and tell me about it. So of course everyone picked like books that we would not normally read in school. I picked Shakespeare. I read 3 Shakespeare books. Oh my god, that's so cringy. I can't believe I was that kid. But it's because I read all the other books that everyone else was reading. Like, I already read The Hunger Games, I already read Twilight, I already read whatever other books they were reading, and so I didn't want to reread them for a book report. So I was like, you know what, I never read Shakespeare. And like I said, I love the analyzing that we did in English, so I picked Shakespeare. And I was like, when I went up there to present my project, I will say, I don't think that I was very self-conscious as a kid. Maybe in like middle school, because middle schoolers are so mean to each other, but in middle school I might have been like the most self-conscious. Elementary school and high school, like by the time it was high school, I didn't care what anyone thought of me. I was good about that, where I was just like, I had my best friends, I was living my life, and I didn't care that people would be like, I didn't even cross my mind that people would make fun of me for reading Shakespeare. Like, I was a very secure kid, so that's what I picked, and it's just, yeah, it's just kind of crazy that that's what I picked. But yeah, I would say Death by Mom and English class inspired me to start reading. What book have you wanted to return to lately? You know what's crazy is I feel like every fall I get into this like YA dystopian like mood. I like reread some YA dystopian that I read before. Like last fall it was the Divergent series. The fall before that I think it was maybe the Mortal Instruments. I think I reread those. The year before that it was Hunger Games. Like every fall I get into a mood to reread one of my like childhood YA dystopian books. And this fall, because I've just read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and I just watched the movie, I know, several years late, I was just not super into it because Hunger Games was like, you know, when I read it in middle school, like I was like, that's cool, they come out with the prequel, very cool, I didn't expect much. I had not stopped thinking about the movie since I watched it several weeks ago, and I finished the book a couple days ago, and I cannot stop thinking about that. Specifically, Tomlin. Whew, I think he's so attractive, but I've been obsessed with Hunger Games and therefore him. So because I've been obsessed with Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I feel like I want to reread Hunger Games. Just even though me and my boyfriend and I, when we watched Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, my boyfriend had never seen Catching Fire or any of the Mockingjay movies. And after we watched Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I had him rewatch all the 4 like original Hunger Games movies. And we did that only like a couple weeks ago. So I feel like that made me want to revisit the original Hunger Games series because I feel like they were really good adaptations. Actually, even though there is one gripe that I have with Hunger Games adaptation. I remember this when we were watching it. I read the books and then I saw the movies, and I remember specifically being upset that Peeta was Josh Hutcherson. I went through a phase where I was obsessed with Josh Hutcherson. Like, again, in high school, he was one of my obsessions. Like, I loved him, but I just didn't think that he was good for the role of Peeta. I wanted him and Gale to switch places. Like, I wanted the Hemsworth brother, I don't know which one it is. I wanted the guy who plays Gale to be Peeta and Josh Hutcherson to be Gale, just because I just seem to remember that they described Peeta as like tall and strong, and Jennifer Lawrence is a taller girl and Josh Hutcherson is not a taller boy. So I just remember in my like shallow middle school, high school brain, whatever, I'm like, and I remember that gripe that I had when we were rewatching it recently. That's the only gripe that I have with Hunger Games. I feel like it is a very faithful adaptation. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the movie, is a very faithful adaptation of the book. I do feel like if you watched Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, you should definitely read the book because you get a lot more insight into Snow's like psyche and like his mindset and everything. That I think that's really interesting. Whoa, I got way off topic. I guess to answer this question, I want to reread the Hunger Games. I want to return to the Hunger Games lately. Next is your favorite or formative young adult series. That's a hard one. I'm about to piss some people off. I know I am. I know I'm about to piss some people off. Listen, I want to say again, just because J.K. Rowling is a terrible person and is concerned about all the wrong things, I feel like it's still gonna be Harry Potter. And I don't like saying this because I don't like supporting J.K. Rowling. I'm good at separating the author from the art. Like, I think that you're allowed to do that in certain circumstances. And in this circumstance, I never thought like, oh my god, J.K. Rowling's a genius, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, because I read Harry Potter when I was younger, I just always thought that Hogwarts existed. Like, I just always had in my mind that it existed, and it didn't exist as like a series to me. It existed as a separate world. Like, I'm just like, I did not associate anything with it besides Hogwarts and Harry and Ron and all those people. Like, I didn't associate J.K. Rowling with it. I didn't at all. That's why, honestly, like, Draco Talk and everything has been blowing up, re-blowing up again, and why fanfics are so popular in the Harry Potter, like, world, because I feel like people are trying to, like, reclaim this world that they grew up loving, but, like, make it more accepting and make it more their own. Like, I feel like J.K. Rowling has created, like, yes, she started by making Harry Potter, but it's become something entirely separate from her, like, in my opinion. That entirely separate from her thing is why I love the Harry Potter series. I have to say that because I rewatch the movies all the time. It just gives me that nostalgic feeling, you know? I don't know if it was necessarily like formative, but it's definitely been like the longest lasting young adult series that I've loved just the entire world of for the longest time. Oh, also, I want to say Twilight, because I remember specifically Breaking Dawn was the first book that I ever read in like middle school or high school or whatever it was, where I felt a genuine loss when I read the last page. Like, I was so invested in that Twilight world, I felt a loss. I remember it viscerally when I had to close Breaking Dawn and I knew there was no more books. Like, I think I cried. I think I cried to my mom. And I was like, how is there just no more books after this book? Like, what do you mean? This world is just done? Twilight was one of the ones that I was like, that was the first series where I felt, now I feel it all the time. The first series where I felt like, wow, I'm so sad that's over. So I have to say Twilight was also a formative young adult series. Okay, now next question. A book you had to read in school but you loved. I like can see the book in my mind. I know what it is. I think I talked to my mom about it. That's how much I loved it. I don't remember. I'm gonna think about it. I also gotta get coffee because my voice is dry. So I'm gonna think about it and get coffee, and then I'll come back with you. Okay, hello you guys. I'm back with my coffee. It's in my cute little Wish Upon a Star mug. I've had this for so long, and it's like one of my favorite cups. I love it so much. I still can't remember what it was called. Like, I know for a fact there was a book that I had to read in school that I absolutely loved. I can't remember what it was, but I remembered another one, and I'm gonna be that annoying English student again and say Romeo and Juliet. We have to read Romeo and Juliet. Of course we did. That was one of the books that I was actually very invested in. Like, I remember people, like, it was always that classic, like, oh yeah, you gotta read Shakespeare in high school, wait till that happens. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That's why I did Shakespeare for my English project, because I was a tryhard, I guess. But I also genuinely really liked Romeo and Juliet. Like, I thought the writing was so cool. People are always like, I don't understand what he's saying. And I understood completely what he was saying. Like, I understood the metaphors, I understood the similes, I understand the way that he was talking. Not to flex, but I did understand what he was saying. That was one that I really actually genuinely liked, Romeo and Juliet, because it was just a classic love story. I think that, again, like I said, I wasn't really into romance when I was like in school. So I was totally into fantasy. That's what I read in my spare time. So that was like one of my first introductions to romance, and like, what a great introduction. Hello, the most famous love story of all time was my introduction to romance. I just remember loving it so much, and I've like read past the assigned chapters. Actually, no, I wanted to read past the assigned chapters, but I was such a goody two shoes. I was like, I can't, I'm not allowed to, even though my teacher would not have known. I did want to read past the assigned reading every week because I was just so into it. So I would say Romeo and Juliet. Weirdest favorite book? I feel like I should be in front of like my library while I'm thinking about this, because what's my weirdest favorite book? I'm gonna go on Goodreads. I'm gonna go on my 5 stars. This is such a fun challenge. I'm having a great time. I hope you guys are too. I'm sorry I'm just talking at you, but I'm having a great time with this challenge, just like reflecting on my book lore. I think it's so interesting. We're gonna go by rating. What are my 5 stars that are the weirdest? I mean, I got some weird ones. I mean, Twilight's in there. That was a weird book when you think about it. Wow, I forgot about all these. I forgot about the Trell series, the Switched and Torn. I forgot about the Need series. I was obsessed with the Need series. Add that in. I was obsessed with the Need series also. That was my jam in like middle school, high school. Oh my god, Hush Hush. Obsessed with Hush Hush as well. Alright, we're gonna have to go with it. I'm gonna have to say The Mortal Instruments. And here's why. Because of this reaction that I'm having right now, it starts real weird. Like, it is a long series. Like, The Mortal Instruments is like a whole world. And it has 6 or 7 books from like the original series, and there's like a 3-book prequel and then a 3-book sequel or something. I don't know. But it's a big world. And I read it in high school. I was obsessed with Mortal Instruments in high school before everyone got into book talk in 2020 and everyone else got obsessed with it. But I was obsessed with it first because it starts weird. It's just weird. I feel like, okay, listen, if you haven't read it, I'm gonna spoil the first book right now. I'm gonna spoil the series a little bit right now. So if you haven't finished Mortal Instruments, just skip past this question. This is the timestamp to go to the next question. But if you have, Mortal Instruments is probably the weirdest book series that I've been obsessed with, because it starts out as a love interest, like the love interest from the book 1. By the end of book 1, you think they're siblings. No, it gets revealed that they're siblings. But like there's this whole love story of the whole first book, and I loved Chase. I was obsessed with him, and I loved Clary, and then they dropped this bomb on us that Jace and Clary are our brother and sister, and I was like questioning all of my life choices. It was just so, it was a weird twist to do. Like, why did Cassie Clare have to do that? Like, it's just, of all the twists she could have done, that was her twist. It was weird. It was so weird to me. You know, spoiler alert, they're not actually related, but they had you going. For the first like 2, maybe 3 books, you thought they were related. And it was so weird because it was like, there was this always like tension between them, and it was just, it wasn't like a dark romance book where it's like, there is incest and there's like, that's the point. It was a young adult fantasy series, and incest was a plot point in the first couple of books, and I just was not prepared for that. I was not prepared for that in middle school or high school, and that was probably the weirdest favorite book, because it was a great, I want to reread that series too. It's just really long. It was a great series. That was just a weird curveball to throw. Real weird of you, Cassie, real weird. So I'm gonna have to say World Instruments. Second to last question. If your 13-year-old self could live in a fictional world, which would it be? Is it different from the world you'd choose now? Good question. 13-year-old self, I'm definitely gonna have to say Inkheart. Like I said, that was like my favorite in the very beginning. Inkheart was the one that I related the most to, so that was definitely my favorite. My book that I wanted to live in, just because like that was so cool to me. The world that she was writing was so cool too in my head, so I definitely wanted to live in Inkheart when I was little. And also I would say when I was 13, I'd probably want to live in the Click series. Like, okay, weird twist because we've been talking about fantasy, but if a fantasy world, it would have to be either the Need series. Oh yes, I forgot. It would either be the Need series or Inkheart, because that's like my fantasy world. The Need series was about, I think it was like fairies. It was like, they were dark fairies too. They weren't like, you know, Resand type fairies. They were different type of fairies. I want to reread that series because I remember I was obsessed with that series. But it would either be the Need world or Inkheart because of those reasons. But just generally, I was also obsessed with the Click. Well, when I was in middle school, I was obsessed with the Click. And they were middle school girls, and if you don't know about this, you had to have known about the Click series. If you were there, you had to be there, because it's a huge series. It's just so ridiculous. It's about these like little middle schoolers that are so rich, and there's so many little like things that Lacey Harrison, the author, like throws in there that'll be funny, like if you reread it as an adult, like I'm like, ha, I get you, Lacey Harrison. Like their school is called Octavian Country Day, but it's like OCD is like the abbreviation. Like they're all OCD, so their school is called OCD, you know. But like little things like that, like now as an adult reading it, I was like, that's funny that she did that. I was obsessed with it when I was in middle school. I thought they were so cool. They were so mean. They were so mean. And I remember specifically comparing my like middle school like group of friends with the Click group of friends, and like thinking like, okay, so if I'm this girl, then she has to be her, and then she has to be her, and like we talked about it, like which ones we were, and I wanted to live in there because I was like, their life just seems so cool. She gets to like, one of the books I remember, they just randomly happen upon this producer, and one of them randomly gets cast in this like super famous movie and then just never does anything else with it again. And it's like, I want to live in that world. And different from the world I choose now, I mean, I would choose Fourth Wing now. I'm sorry, like I would definitely choose Fourth Wing now. I love the dragons. I love the communication with the dragons. I don't know if I would survive the parapet, but I would want to try. Yeah, I don't want to live in Fourth Wing now. It's just based on, they're both kind of fantasy worlds, like talking about the Need series and Fourth Wing. Like, they're both fantasy worlds, but they're just different. Last question. Is there a newly released book you wish you had when you were younger? I don't know. All that's really coming to mind right now is romance new releases. I don't know if there is, because I feel like the books that I love now, like Fourth Wing, like my 13-year-old self could not be reading that. She should not be reading that. Like, I'm sorry, but those scenes that Rebecca Yarros writes in there, my 13-year-old self should not be reading them. So I don't know, I don't think that I would want her to have those books. I feel like this is like terrible to end this on like question where I don't know, but I don't think there is a book that I wish I had when I was younger. that's newly released. I feel like fantasy wise, like I was fed, like I was happy with the fantasy series. I don't think I would need to see other fantasy series like sooner than I have now. I was gonna say maybe Magnolia Parks just because that is like part of my like entire personality now, but my younger self wouldn't have understood it. Like it's such a toxic romance. My younger self would not have understood it, and it might have given me a bad view of what love is. So maybe not, I don't know. I don't think there is. With all honesty, I will, when I'm editing this, I will think on it and I will see if there is another one that I've thought about since. But I don't think there is one that's newly released that I wish I had when I was little, because I think I was good. A lot of the books that are popular now, like fantasy wise, I read when I was little. Not little meaning like, you know, high school, middle school. I'm gonna have to say no. I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to end this on like a non-answer, but my answer is gonna be no, I guess. I feel like it's just like reflecting on like my book lore and how I got to where I am now. It's exactly what I had to do. Like it's exactly where I had to be, what I had to do. But I had my heroes. So I don't know, just going through it, like I feel like it's so interesting thinking about my reading journey and how I got to where I am now, because it definitely has changed, but I also have definitely seen like the invisible thread, the invisible string throughout all these questions, which is why I want to do this video, because I want to do it to like introduce myself to you guys, just to be like, hey, this is my book lore, this is me, like, hi, welcome to my channel. But also just like thinking about it myself, I feel like all those books I mentioned, there is like a piece of them in me still. I think it's kind of cool. So not to be super cheesy, but that's what I think. And that is going to be the end of this video. I'm sure this is so long, so thank you for sticking around for like an hour of me talking, like just straight up talking about books. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your answers in the comments, because I'm so curious. I love watching these book lore videos because I love like the psychology of dissecting like the booktubers that I watch now. Like, oh, this is where they came, like this is why they think this, and like, oh, we both like the same one when we were 13, we would be great friends when we were 13, you know? So I think it's fun. So let me know the answers to these questions below. And yes, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!